Good morning and rise and shine, Franklin County, on this Monday morning. We hope that you had a wonderful weekend and got out and enjoyed all that Franklin County has to offer. We're going to kick your week off great with the great things going on at Franklin County Public Schools. We've got two wonderful representatives in to talk about those things this morning. Thank you guys for coming out bright and early on this Monday morning to kick off your week.
You're quite welcome.
If you would introduce yourself and your role with Franklin County Public Schools.
Sure. My name is Jeff Whorley. I am the Rocky Mount District Representative on the Franklin County School Board.
And my name is Sue Rogers. I'm the Assistant Superintendent in Franklin County.
Absolutely. And each month we have a representative from the school board. It's also a representative from central office, usually Dr. Church. He had a little bit of a scheduled issue this month, and he sent a great representative to fill up his place this morning. But we've got a lot of things to talk about this morning with the things going on in Franklin County. And the first thing that we can hit, and congratulate you a little bit, it is the School Board Appreciation Month. And we definitely appreciate you and the rest of the school board for all of the thankless work that you put in.
Well, thank you. Yes.
But you guys have had an opportunity over the course of this month to get out and enjoy some of the things that the school kids are doing in their classrooms.
Yeah, that's one of the fun, it's actually, to me, it's been one of the fun parts of this job is getting into the schools and actually seeing what our kids are doing, what they're learning, how they're interacting with each other. So it's nice to be able to see, and it also reminds me how hard our staff works, all the teachers, cafeteria, transportation, custodial. So it really gives us the hands-on experience of what these people are doing in our schools and how they're taking care of our children. So it's great to watch them learn and succeed and thrive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, as a school kid here in Franklin County Public Schools, you'd always remember when those school board members would come around. Sometimes you didn't know exactly who they were until they poked their head in, and then your teacher would tell you afterwards. Or superintendent, I had Superintendent Giroux, he would just poke his head in, and after a couple years, you finally figured out who they were over the course of time. But I know that you probably have the same effect when you go into schools, just being able to get out of the office and get into the schools and see the great things.
Being a former classroom teacher, first and second grade teacher, it's just where my heart is. And as Mr. Whorley said, I think about when I was a classroom teacher, probably 15 years ago, the job is really harder than it used to be. A lot of state things that teachers are accountable, a lot of paperwork. You know, there's more and more complicated situations in the schools, yet the teachers still, they do it because they love those kids and they love seeing them learn. And I just want to say thank you to Mr. Whorley and our school board. They have a tough job. They have a lot of decisions to make, and I know what I always hear them say, it's safety first, and the kids, kids and learning, right behind that. So knowing with what they have to work with and what they have to do, making those choices, which are hard, it is just a public service, and we thank you for that.
Well, I think I've heard some of the other board members say, and it's true, we always try to keep the kids' best interest in mind. I mean, that's what we're there for. We're there for these kids, and we want them to do the best that they can and give them the best tools and environment that we possibly can. So we always keep that in mind. So, and people like Mrs. Rogers and the rest of our staff, they make our job a lot easier. I mean, they really are excellent.
Definitely working together is such a big key. And I think we could take a little bit of time this morning. I think we've done it every time that we've had a school board member on, but I think it's just to kind of ingrain the community and our viewers into understanding what are some things that the school board's responsible for.
Well, currently we're in budget season. That's one of the biggest things that we do. We help develop a budget for the upcoming school year. So we always look at things that we need money for, places where if we have to take away from one place, put into another, talking about new initiatives that we want to get involved in, trying to find money for that. We have to work closely with the Board of Supervisors. They're our funding source, so we have to work together with them to see where we can find the money to do so and still take care of our teachers and our staff. I mean, it's all integrated, and it's a juggling act. I mean, we have to be able to find the money to do these things, and it takes time, and it's a big process. So that's one of the biggest things, I think, right now. Developing policy. We like to develop policy that, like Mrs. Rogers said, keep our kids safe, keep them in the learning environment up to date. I know a lot of people think sometimes that you know, we do things and they don't understand why we do it, but we have a bigger picture to look at. So I think those are two of the biggest things that we have to look at and do every time we meet.
And you said something about looking at the bigger picture, and I think that's a perfect segue into something also new that's going on in Franklin County Public Schools. Franklin County's been chosen to be a part of a new initiative, and I'll let whoever wants to tackle that one, because it's very exciting but somewhat complex to get started with.
So there was a competitive application to be part of an innovation team at the state level. We, along with many other districts, submitted it, and Franklin County was chosen as one of the 26 teams. So we'll begin in March and work through December on reimagining what high school might look like. And you know, we if you think about it, we are still doing high school very traditionally. Maybe probably when I was in high school, you go to core courses, you have electives, you graduate with a certain amount of credits, and get your diploma. So what we know is the superintendent of Virginia schools, Dr. Lane, wants to see schools really fostering a profile of a graduate, and that is working on developing the 5 C's. Let's see if I can remember them. There's communication, collaboration, creativity, critical thinking,
citizenship.
And citizenship. So those 5 C's.
Collaboration.
Absolutely. How do we foster that, and how do we hold kids accountable? Because those are the skills that the job market really needs. So Mr. Crutchfield, the principal of the high school, has a vision for the high school, and we submitted that vision in, and I think that's probably what got us on the team. So we'll be working on looking at the future of the high school, and whenever you change something at the high school, it has implications for the middle school and elementary, because it's about preparing kids for the future. And what Mr. Crutchfield sees is, and I'd love him here to explain it because he's got the vision, he would really like to see flagship programs. So right now we have governor school kids, you know, and we have kids that are in Eagle Tech, which is an innovative project-based learning environment. But what we know is that kids have high interest, whether it's agriculture, whether it's medical. They need to see the connection of the core areas, English, mathematics, you know, the social sciences. What do they mean in my career choice or my area of interest? So we want to see the integration of the content within flagship programs. What those flagship programs will be, I don't know, but you know, I think the job market and student input will help guide us in that. So we will have a year of planning and working with other teams at the state level to problem solve and move forward.
And I think we can already see that shift somewhat at the high school. I know it's Career and Technical Education Month, and a couple of weeks ago, maybe even last week, the Career and Technical Education teachers at the high school had a live stream on the Franklin County Public Schools Facebook page. If you're not a follower of that, be sure to go over and follow that. And you could hear all the different class offerings just in Career and Technical Education that didn't exist 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And lots of exciting, very specialized classes already being offered. So I think you can already see that shift.
And Career and Technical, I think Franklin County, I'd have to say, does it right. A lot of schools have their kids go off campus. Those are CTE kids, you know, where they go somewhere else, and it used to be VOTech back in the day. But we have kids taking high-level math and in Career and Technical, because those technical skills are what are marketable. So we want our kids, and Franklin County does a great way of merging all learners and encouraging them to step into it. I mean, Career and Technical, you can take Microsoft Office classes, and you know, it's much different than what probably when I was in school, okay, there was auto body, or you know, auto body is the best good thing to get into today, you know, so there are a lot of skills, and a lot of them are computer generated. So auto body and auto mechanics, you know, wasn't as computer oriented as it is today. So, you know, a lot of those skills just kind of, you know, intertwine.
And it's one reason where we want to expand CTE, because we see that need, we see more kids wanting to get involved with it. So we realize that need is there. We want to expand it, and it's like Mrs. Rogers said, and she makes a great point about it being on campus. We don't want to create that the idea that these kids are different from these kids. I mean, they're all good learners. They all want to do make positive impacts, out in the workforce. So putting them together, working collaboration, that's a big part of it too. But CTE expansion is something that we've been talking about for a long time, and we're continuing to talk about it, and we're focused on it. We want to make sure that we can do it, hopefully.
And it's very similar as we've talked about the new tech and the Eagle Tech. It took some time to get it off the ground, but now it's up and running and very successful. Just to kind of put it in perspective for our viewers that are out there, we've got this, what's the high school going to look like, this plan that the staff has there. How long would it take to get to that point? Just so that we can really put it in perspective for people. It's not an overnight thing.
Right.
It's not next year. Or
right. Our planning begins in March through December. What I think we haven't even got into that planning stage. So whether it's 2 years out, 5 years out, I think what we want to know is, what implications it has and how do we prepare for that. So we're in the vision stage, and we'll begin that kind of planning and deep thinking in the next year.
I think the board was pretty excited to hear about it at our last meeting. So we're looking forward to those types of new adventures and things we can offer. So we're really excited about it.
And that was a little bit of an unfair question, but just wanted you to keep in perspective that you hear all these great things and we want them to happen tomorrow, or we already wanted them to happen, but understand they do take some time because as with everything, it seems with Franklin County Public Schools, it's always good right off the bat. There's some tweaks that come down the road, but you guys make sure that you have
we
your ducks in a row.
Planning new tech at Giroux. Probably our first planning was about 2 years prior to the inception of it. So you have to do that legwork. I think when we do something, we want to do it with excellence, and if that means slowing down, it's important to know and think about the implications that parents might have, kids might need. So there's a lot of back planning that you have to do.
We want to be responsible with the funds as well. We don't want it to be money that we've earmarked for this, and then we come and we realize we haven't done something in the best way possible. So there's that aspect we have to look at too. So.
But something that we want to talk about, and you saw it a little bit earlier this month with the great folks from Boones Mill Elementary School, is they really showed me up with all of these STEM lab activities that they had. If you remember the catapult, 10 popsicle sticks and a rubber band, we needed to make a catapult out of it. I think I was set up a little bit in that competition. Yeah. But we can get by that and we can forgive them. But just a little bit of a discussion about these STEM labs, kind of converting old computer labs as we remember them from when we were in school into something that I think we were talking about, maybe a grandson who's in kindergarten, but it's his second favorite thing in school behind lunch, which really puts it up there.
Yeah,
it's big time.
It's the STEM lab at Boones Mill.
Yes.
And that's kindergarten's words. I think what we see, we have in, I would say probably half of the elementary schools, maybe a little bit more, and they're all developing in the works, is the STEM labs, or some schools call it the STEAM lab or the STREAM lab. Yes. So STEM is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. When you get to STEAM, you add the arts. When you get to STREAM, it's reading and arts. So in some of the schools, there is a STEM coach or a STEM manager, and they work with the classroom teacher to integrate projects that go along with the standards of learning. So why don't you talk about the one that your daughter was involved with?
Shout out to Liam Wade. That's where my daughter goes to school, 4th grader. Hey, Rachel. But yesterday, they have a STREAM lab at Liam Wade. I think it's their first year. Mrs. Bell, I believe, is the instructor there. Yesterday, they went to the Western Virginia Science Museum at Center and Square in Roanoke. They were presenting at something called the Mini Maker Fair, and there were several schools there, Giroux or New Tech, I think. The kids were presenting there as well. But the Liam Wade 4th graders were there with their project, and I think it was vibration. I can't remember the exact name, but they were making musical instruments out of household items. There were a lot of egg cartons, rubber bands. My daughter made a rainmaker out of a paper towel tube and rice. But not only did they make them, they were showing other people how to make them. So people were coming in. It was a well-attended event. People were coming in and they were helping each other help other people make these instruments. So that was something they learned in STREAM, which is a great hands-on experience for them. not only to learn these things, learn about, I think you were saying pitch and things
Right,
about
vibrations, all the science standards.
So they get to hear it, touch it, see it, and then work together, and then present it to other people out, in the world. So it was great.
I think you hit the nail on the head that we saw with the kids from Boone's Mill. I think they were maybe second graders and fourth graders, can't remember quite the age, but not only could they do the activity, they had a couple coding activities and building a catapult out of different household items,
right.
But then they could demonstrate it to you and tell you how to do it and why
right.
that it works,
right.
Which I think that's a skill that maybe in the past when I was in school we would know how to do something, but then when it came to explaining it and having to show someone else how to do it,
I would have been
skills.
terrified as a child to have to present to a room full of adults how I'm doing something, but these kids are learning it. It's becoming integrated and they're learning, which is perfect.
I think you're saying knowing the why.
Sure.
I mean, that's important for us as we even plan on high school initiative, STEM labs, is why are we doing it? And the why, most of the time people know how we do it or what we do, but they don't know why we do it. And the why is important. And for our kids to understand, the why is coding important, the what's behind it and why do I need to know it, and what, when I was a kid and I would be in, a math class, I'm like, why do I have to know this stuff? And that builds the connection for kids.
It does.
Is knowing the why.
Yep.
And from the administrative level, where did the foresight come from to take a computer lab, which when you think here in 2019, that's what you need. You need a computer lab, you need kids working on a computer, needing to know how to use a computer, to transform those computer labs into these STEM or STEAM or STREAM labs. Where does that foresight come from?
Well, I think it generated, it was probably 2 or 3 years ago, elementary principals get together and we started talking about, STEM and, we don't have any more room, where could we, it was just really brainstorming together as leadership team saying, if this is important, what can we do? And them offering up space that they currently had, saying, let's think about using the space differently.
I know when we go to, excuse me, as a school board, when we go to VSBA conferences and we go to workshops, we see what other schools are doing too that are successful with their kids. And so we try to bring that back home if we think something's going to be a good idea. And we listen certainly from the principals and the teachers tell us what they think would be a good idea. And so when we see other schools being successful, I don't think we should be afraid to implement some of those ideas. And so that's what I think part of this came from there as well. And we see that at conferences. We see what's happening in other divisions and what they're facing, which is a lot of the same things we are. But we see that how the world is changing, how they're adapting, we need to adapt too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we want our kids from Franklin County to be armed and ready for the future.
Absolutely, and definitely on the right track. Definitely there and very competitive, not only in the classroom, but on the athletic fields. Had a Scholastic Bowl this team this year at the high school. Was very successful. Just lots of great things always coming.
Yeah, band, career and technical. Our kids, they stand out.
I'm always reminded at student recognition nights when I see what these kids are doing, like you said, athletically. I mean, they really are succeeding at every level, which is great.
Well, anything that we've missed here on this Monday morning? We know that it's early, so if we forgot something, you have to overlook us here as we get our week started. But I want to thank you guys for coming out bright and early and just telling us about the great things that are going on here in Franklin County. And again, we want to extend our appreciation, being School Board Appreciation Month, for the hard work that you guys do on the school board.
Well, we thank you for having us on, certainly.
Yes,
and also in the front office, as we said, sometimes a thankless job at times. But again, we thank you for everything that you guys do.
Thank you.
Thank you.